the first or second year that Joe Rogan moved on Spotify. At the end of the year, you have this recap. And I think I had 21,000 hours listening Joe Rogan. Mainly all the time when I work, I listen to him.
Damn. Could it be the downfall of the Rogan experience, or could it be...
Joe Rogan the last few years, especially during the pandemic, after the pandemic, has radicalized himself.
Old animals die, new animals come by.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Louis and George podcast.
My name is Louis.
My name is George. Oh,
welcome.
Hi Louis, how are we doing?
Third round.
Sure, yes, the tradition.
Yeah. The world of podcasts and YouTube has given a lot to talk in the past weeks.
Yeah, I know that you don't like to talk that much about the competition, but
exactly.
It's been a thing that's been bothering me a lot. Like you know, when you have these topics that are like, oh, you want to talk about it publicly, shit on people. There is this way of saying great minds discuss ideas and not so great minds discuss people. Well, we're not so great minds.
That makes us very average minds, I see. On the low end of the spectrum.
So no, for the people who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan. Even my tablet and my phone have the background with him. But lately, there are a lot of things in American podcasts that bother me a lot. And because we're entering a little bit this game, I think it's okay to discuss them for this one episode. And it's worth mentioning that most likely we will never get any close to the success of the biggest American podcast. But still, I think we can discuss it.
In the end, he has, more than 2,000 episodes. This is our third. So, yeah, step by step.
It's our fourth.
Oh, crap. You're right.
Well, we're doing good. We're catching up.
What is the expression? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we started with our fourth step, but I think we are starting in a good point exactly because I have the feeling that the American podcast scene is downfalling. I think the first or second year that Joe Rogan moved on Spotify, at the end of the year, you have this recap. I don't know if you ever noticed that you can see what is your favorite song, what is your favorite podcast. Each one has their own personal thing, and they post it on Instagram because Spotify did it because they knew people were going to share it. And I think I had 21,000 hours listening Joe Rogan. Mainly all the time when I work, I listen to him.
Damn.
And this year I had 3,000 maybe.
3,000. I mean, I haven't listened to all the episodes. I tend to be quite focused. Usually when they bring in scientists and cool science features, I'd listen more. The MMA ones depends on the mood. The comics I tend to listen because they're often very, very funny. But yeah, I'm more into the scientist focused. That's the topic. But I understand he tries to get a wider range. Now, you mentioned that it's going a little bit down. Could be could it be maybe part of the natural evolution of anything, any major series? Game of Thrones at some point was the greatest series in all of history. And then it slowly went down and went down into flames in the end. Could it be the downfall of the Rogan experience, or could it be the person, the environment?
We were discussing this with other people, and of course, there is this aspect, like you said, that if you don't evolve something, at some point it's going to start degrading because it's just out of date. But also, I have the feeling that there are a few points that are making the Joe Rogan experience a little worse, and if he catches up on those points, it's gonna be great again. So what triggered me a lot was one of the latest episodes I also linked you, the one between Graham Hancock and
Flin
Dibble.
The archaeologist.
The archaeologist. Yeah. So one thing is that Joe Rogan the last few years, especially during the pandemic, after the pandemic, has radicalized himself on taking always side with the, controversial against the mainstream idea. Vaccines are bad, aliens, lost civilizations. And I understand that all these things are exciting if they existed. But it's, my opinion, is a very populist position because, and in this podcast that they did, it came out. A few years ago, he did another similar podcast when they released this movie on Netflix called Game Changers, which was explaining that eating vegan is better. And he said, this is a propaganda movie. And he invited one of these bro people. I don't know if he's a bro people, but one of these guys that defend the carnivore diet or something like that. And then the guy that made the movie told Joe Rogan, what the fuck, man? If you're going to discuss this, at least invite me over. And then they had the same discussion. And then again, it was like, oh my God, like, of course, if you let somebody talk 3 hours about their point of view without any real even ability sometimes to contradict them, because of course, Joe Rogan doesn't know about everything. Yeah. You can come over with the guys that talk about against the vaccine. And then after that makes sense. The guys that talk Atlantis, it makes sense. The guy that talk carnivore diet makes sense. So I think that this is the best part and the worst part of Joe. And this is one of the aspects.
So he tends to correct it. I have to say, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. He tends to correct after, I think when the vaccine situation happened, he even made a video that he was going to invite people from different views and stuff, saying, okay, yes, we had this very anti-vax guy, but I will bring people which are in favor. He is against the COVID one. He was against it, I think, because saying that it's mostly bullshit or something.
Yeah, he was a lot against the COVID vaccine. Some points were reasonable, but in the same time, he didn't have any solution. His solution was to take intravenous vitamins, to take stem cells, I think. I don't remember what kind of things. But anyways, all these things that are extremely expensive. And I'm like, bro, like, we're not millionaire like you. And if the vaccines didn't work at all, as he claims, why did the pandemic finish much earlier in the Western world, or all the part of the world where they decided to go with the...
Yeah. We didn't become superhumans suddenly. But George, look, stem cells, easy. You just get a couple of babies, put them in a blender, make baby juice, and off you go.
No, that's the pedophiles that run the world.
I always make
Alec Jones. The globalist. Kind of retarded. Yeah, so this is one of the things that... you watched the latest one about the archaeology one. Yeah. What do you think about it?
I think there was the character Hancock and the other character, the Dibble, Flint, Dibble. I think the character Dibble was, character. I'm saying character. This is a person, not a character. He was way more scientific in his way to bring out what is evidence, what isn't evidence and such. Hancock is, I would say, more charismatic, which is a dangerous thing, because the charismatic person sometimes sound like they know more and they know better what's going on. Also, this, I've always thought, the British accent, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
You say anything, however stupid it is, you say it with a British accent, it sounds way more believable. It sounds like, oh, yeah, this person has a point. But yeah, I mean, let me start with one thing about science and what is evidence and what isn't.
Because you have also a little bit of a background, because before becoming architect, you went into physics, right?
Exactly. I have a bit of scientific training from my times in physics, and I could say that the lowest form of evidence in science is somebody saying, hey, I saw it. Yeah, look at this picture. I saw that. I saw it. That is it doesn't matter whom. If Albert Einstein said, yeah, the theory of relativity, I saw it, I believe it, then nobody would believe him.
The second one is a friend of mine told me.
Exactly. So you need a bit hardcore, more hard evidence that is something you can verify, something you can replicate. The other guy from this podcast, Flint, Flint
Dibble.
He was giving out a lot more data of his findings, not just, I dived with my wife and I saw this in the under pits of the ocean. It's like, it's for sure it's a reason to investigate it. I'm not going to say, oh, bullshit. No, it's probably interesting, but to say I saw it, that is the lowest form of evidence in the scientific community. Really.
Yeah, actually, the scientific method, from what I've understood, it's you have a theory, you have a hypothesis, and then you start checking all the things that might prove your hypothesis wrong. So it's not like about, I think this and then let's make it everything fitting so it works. It's actually, let's try it in all the conditions in which might not work. And if it still works, it means it's true.
Exactly. But that's what you do. But then there's peer review, which is somebody who is analogous to you, which probably somebody who doesn't like you and who's very happy to prove you wrong. He has to do these experiments as well. And if he finds evidence that proves you're wrong, he's going to shout at it, that you're wrong. And this is an idiot-proof, let's say, system where it's self-correcting all the time. And you propose an idea, it's experimented. The peer review, the guy who doesn't like you, tries to prove you wrong. If he cannot make it, then we start basing it as a scientific truth. It could be that this scientific truth later is expanded into something else. I'll give you a quick example, has nothing to do with archaeology. The law of gravity, Isaac Newton developed the equations for the laws of gravity. When you take these equations into very, very high mass, like the black holes and the stars and this level, for stars it works, but more massive black holes and these elements, these equations break down, they don't work. That doesn't mean Newton is wrong. It means that these equations have to be expanded. And this is where Einstein comes in. And general relativity and special relativity. General relativity and special relativity, if you apply it to low numbers, like standard size elements like moons, planets, they become Newton's equations. But Einstein is an expansion on something. This is very common in science because then people think scientists have their head up their ass, thinking, oh, scientists are changing their mind all the time. No, they expand on something once that thing is first proven as a scientific truth. But yeah, this guy was more, I saw it. It's not the best way.
Yeah, another thing that really caught my attention about Flin Dibble that he explained very well is that also archaeology is something that is based on big data. So they also like take, each excavation is like a zoom in on one point, but then they coordinate all the data that they have collected and they look at the big picture, look into patterns. And so in this way they understand. And he explained, actually, we are looking for what you're looking for too. We want to find Atlantis. We want to find the mysterious civilization that, for example, existed before the Ice Age or during the Ice Age in the Southern Hemisphere and stuff like that. We're just not finding it. And exactly what is great in this situation, in my opinion, is that Graham Hancock did this Netflix show, wrote a bunch of books, and they're really interesting because they, everyone wants to believe that something like this is adventurous and you want to read these books and you want to figure it out. But also he can always say, like, he said, yeah, well, you have excavated only 5% of the possibilities. You don't know. How much have you excavated in the Sahara Desert? Not that much. And of course, if they excavate more, maybe they will find more, but maybe it's also not so doable. So he can cope on this idea that, see, the scientific world is not doing enough and they're hiding the real history, because this is what he claims in his documentary. And what it bothers me is that these people are fucking successful. This guy is like sold probably millions of books. I saw his net worth is over millions of dollars. He flies in fucking helicopters over the pyramids and doing pictures, dives in this place. He has this awesome life. The guy, the Dibble motherfucker, didn't even have a Apple laptop. He had with this fucking shitty...
He didn't even have a shaver. Look, did you see his beard?
He didn't have
a shave.
Probably secondhand clothes and stuff like that. And this is something that from the Joe Rogan world of podcasts is coming out. All these people that are whining about how difficult it is, how they're getting canceled. I'm like, no, bro. Like, it's difficult if you're like normal person that has to wake up every day at 7:30 and go to a fucking work for 8 hours and be careful about every expense every month. So this is another thing that I really don't.
The canceling element. Yeah, that's a tricky one because I'm going to defend the Hancock character here a little bit because the argument often is like, well, you're doing great. Why do you complain so much about being canceled? But he is doing great because he decided to face the cancellation movement and fight it. You could easily back down, and then they the people who are trying to cancel you, they will really put you down and put you in a hole, not kill you. I mean, like, not letting you any exposure, not letting you talk at all. So the cancellation, I'm kind of an enemy of that element. I saw a little bit of whistling going around during this interview debate. I don't know, where they throw at each other like, oh, you're misrepresenting me. You're misrepresenting me as well. You're using very toxic examples like white supremacy, because these examples from Hancock are in the text related with the Spanish conquistadors, which can be related to white supremacists. You have to be very careful using this, because I really doubt that Hancock is a white supremacist or trying to push some agenda about white people being better or something. It's more like some guy who has some wacky theories, which probably very weak theories, but putting that label, even if the label was not to him, but even putting it next to him, it creates already tension that it's kind of unnecessary, I think.
Yes, but I think that I've been watching a lot about this cancel culture lately. I've been reading about it. I agree with you. I'm totally against the cancel culture. And in America, it happens even in schools, which it's horrible, because you're maybe a teenager, you said something wrong by accident. Now with phones and stuff, these things get recorded, and then your community cancels you during your years where you have to develop as a personality. And it's awful. And the moment where they were starting talking about this white supremacy, I thought that this guy, Flin Dibble, it's a little bit stretching it. Although I got his point, because also he was saying that we have to be respectful to the indigenous population, because it's like, this is what in America, they talk a lot about this cultural appropriation, because they don't have the identity we have in Europe. You don't need to identify with something because you come from Spain and you know about your heritage. I don't have to find my own identity, my own identity, because I have my heritage. But in America, a lot of people don't have a lot of heritage. And that's why they have to gather in these identity bubbles, like, I don't know, gender, race, even the generations, they split themselves a lot in between.
Millennials, X, boomers.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is one thing. But another thing that I think is that this guy, Graham Hancock, for sure didn't get canceled when nobody knew about him. And he started getting canceled when he was popular. Trying to get him canceled started probably when he was popular enough so that the scientific community heard about him. And most likely they started ignoring him in the beginning, because of course the scientific community is a little snobby and his theories are just ridiculous. And this guy showed it, like the Flin guy. So I think that this cancel excuse becomes the promotional topic. And they give him fire, they give him more fuel, because they say these stupid things. He's white supremacist, and he says, see, they ignore what I'm saying. Instead, they're selling, of course, and some things are ridiculous when they said he's not white supremacist, that he hates Jewish people. Anti-Semite. Like, of course, I haven't read any of his books. I've watched a couple of episodes of his Netflix shows just to see. And it's a very sensationalist archaeology show where he talks about gods and a society that has spread around the globe. And as you said, he's very charismatic. He knows how to talk. He put the things the way it fits him.
The English accent, man.
It's
dangerous.
And I watched a similar documentary about the flat earthers, and they work exactly the same way. They say they have this theory, and they do exactly the same thing. They pick everything that fits their theory, but they're doing in the whole movie, in the background, they're starting to do this experiment where everybody's saying, well, actually, if they do this experiment, they got to prove that the flat, it's round, it's like a globe. And they did it in the end, and the movie finishes, spoiler alert, saying, oh, fuck, probably we did something wrong. But the experiment was correct, and they proved that
it was round. Damn. Okay. I mean, it is kind of ridiculous, the argument of, well, you haven't scanned the whole ocean. How can you tell for sure?
Exactly.
And it's like, You're right. We cannot tell for sure, but the absence of evidence does not prove you're right. It's just absence of evidence. We don't know. That's the thing. Should they investigate more? I think so, because maybe there is something, but you cannot say there was something definitely, because no evidence, no grounds to put it in. It's very unscientific, really, how they were doing. It was kind of, my scientific mind was very cringing at the whole thing. Oh, I dived with my wife there. We risked our lives to get down there. Yeah, that's, well, good for you, and I'm glad you're okay, but that is not evidence. Just because you risked your life doesn't mean anything. It only means that you're passionate about it, which is fine.
And exactly that. And Flint also a little bit dismissed he became a little also snobby in the end when they were talking about Egypt. He was like, just smart people did the pyramids. Like, bro, like, it's very spectacular. Let's admit that. It was really funny the very end, because Joe Rogan tried to end it in a very positive note. And I think both sides were like, yeah, well, let's just pretend we're happy with each other for the end of the podcast. But yeah, this is some recurring topic in Joe Rogan, that he takes Alex Jones, this guy Graham Hancock. He will take all these people that got some cancellation allegedly, and he'll start promote them. He had like now Tucker Carlson, the guy that interviewed Putin. Super boring conversation. And also, I think that during the pandemic, because of the lack of feedback maybe that he got from the audience, because he says he doesn't read comments, but it doesn't work exactly this way, because if you have a YouTube channel, you have a fucking bunch of notifications that you have to, you cannot avoid reading them.
This part we don't know, of course, and we'll never will, but I don't know how much people are behind the Joe Rogan podcast. I doubt it's just him and Jamie and one more dude. There's probably more than one or two. It's a small operation, and they're incredibly successful considering how small it is. But there's probably somebody there doing some kind of management or treatment or checking. Maybe less comments, some comments, but more like which episodes have more reception, which ones have less. There has to be a machine back there. I'm not saying they have an army of people doing analytics all the time, but I'm betting it's not just Joe and Jamie in the evenings like,
no. They have
that's us, by the way.
Yeah, that's like, but first of all, they have a bunch of security. I know that Joe Rogan has a team of ex-Navy SEALs that protect him.
An army.
But also, like, for example, what happened with the Tucker Carlson episode? They have a very small team, and that's a proof, because Jamie or somebody in the team was supposed to set up the podcast to be released at 12 p.m. But by accident, they set it up 12 a.m.
Okay.
Which is in the middle of the night. So this podcast got out on YouTube. They noticed, and they took it down. They moved it back to private, which means the podcast is on YouTube, but it's not visible to everyone. And then they reposted it on 12 p.m. And the comment section of Joe Rogan, it's wild. It's like, fucking YouTube, Google is evil. We know what you're doing here. You're shadow banning this podcast. You don't want us to see the truth. All these knuckleheads that are in the comment section. And Joe Rogan did a tweet, and I don't know if he did an Instagram story, where he said, guys, by the way, to take off all the conspiracy theories, it's not that it's shadow banned. It's just we did this mistake, and now it's out. And the moment it was out, I saw the Instagram story that he posted about it. I saw it in my feed on YouTube. I saw it on Twitter. And I was like, okay, I'm curious, because I stopped watching Joe Rogan that much. I still love some of his episodes, but some of them is just too much for me, because I don't think they're valuable anymore. Before he went to Spotify, some of the episodes on average had 26, 50 million, all these crazy numbers. And the podcast was still available on other platforms, not on Spotify, but on other platforms. Now he did Tucker Carlson, who is the guy on the moment in the States because of the Putin interview, big Fox News guy.
Ex-Fox News.
Yeah, ex-Fox News guy, who basically looks like the dumb villain in typical American comedy.
Yeah. Between the bow tie and everything. It's
Yeah. But the podcast is so far now 14, 15 hours up, and it's barely up to 2 million views. I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one, maybe, that it's slowing down on watching Joe Rogan, you know?
It could be also that the guest they don't find so interesting, the Tucker dude. But I doubt it, because a lot of people want to hear at least a bit. I don't know.
I think he lost the people like me, because what I loved about Joe Rogan is the questions he asks to these famous people. And I found Joe Rogan through the first Elon Musk interview. And that was so interesting because he asked him a lot of personal questions, and he knew how to put the guest in a position where the guest feels comfortable. And now he can ask him all these very interesting questions. And he did 3 interviews with Elon Musk. The second one was worse. And the third one was so stupid because he didn't ask him anything. He didn't ask him about Twitter. He didn't ask him what is he planning to do next with Twitter. He didn't ask him about the criticism over. He just told him, oh man, you did great. You saved us because now we have free speech. No, you don't have free speech. Because on Twitter now you cannot write Twitter instead of X because Elon Musk doesn't like people calling it Twitter. So if you write Twitter in your tweet gets downgraded.
That was a weird move. Yeah. I don't understand the change of name.
That was so stupid.
I don't get it. Yeah.
Because he's obsessed with this. Because have you watched this Onion Glass movie on Netflix?
Yeah.
The guy that was the main character, the billionaire.
Yeah.
They say it's an allegory of Elon Musk.
Really? But they put him as a moron in the movie. Like, he's a very good organizer of teams, but as an inventor, they put him as a kind of useless guy.
Well, yeah. If you read the biography of Elon Musk, I mean, Elon Musk, what is his talent? His talent is that he can take a lot of risk and he loves it. He likes to bet on shit. And of course, he bets on things that when they go well, they're super successful. But now, like Twitter, you can see the very dumb situation. I try to use the app to promote our podcast, by the way, guys. Links in the description for all the social media we have. And we got shadow banned on TikTok already.
Really?
Yeah, we don't have any views there. I have to wait a couple of weeks to see if the situation changes.
Is it because you dumped on Putin?
Yeah.
Damn it.
We put the one reel that we dumped with Putin.
What did I tell you about dumping on the man?
Yeah, and the Russian follow everything on TikTok. So yeah, I don't believe that Twitter, I mean, I believe that maybe Twitter will become great in some way, but in that episode I was super disappointed from Joe because he didn't ask him anything. Then he had The Rock on, the guy, how many times have Joe Rogan make fun that The Rock is on steroids and that he takes steroids? I was thinking that he gonna put it out as a joke, like, hey man, like, by the way, come on, like,
how's the juicing?
How does the juicing? Like,
yeah.
None of that. Basically, it was a podcast where The Rock was sitting there and Joe Rogan was talking. That's it.
I gotta ask, I didn't see it, but I've heard this comment too many times and it feels so ridiculous. Did he mention to The Rock that he could be president? Because he said it many times that The Rock could become president because he's very popular, he's liked and such and such. And to me, it's such a ridiculous thing. And I have nothing against the guy. I'm sure he's a charming dude, but really? Yeah. You're going to get a bodybuilder, actor, fighter guy. He's the president? Really?
Well, that's the future. Idiocracy.
Exactly. Camacho is the character from Idiocracy, played by Terry Crews. Love that guy. And that's the joke, but this time it's not a joke. They're making it for real.
The funniest thing is that Joe Rogan mentions Idiocracy many times, but he doesn't starting to notice that he's part of the making of Idiocracy. Yeah, so this is one thing. And also Joe Rogan with this cancellation, with the comedians, the forefront against the woke mind virus. It's all these mantras, all these cliches. Motherfucker, you have the most popular podcast ever, probably never going to be beaten. You're not going to get canceled. It's true that CNN, when they did their clip about him being sick and they filtered it all yellowish and stuff, that was bullshit. But let the people do their bullshit and stay yourself instead of joining the opposite tribe. Because I guess he lost some people like me that love the podcast. I still love the Protect Our Park podcast. They're hilarious. Hilarious when he has some comedian on, when they do silly stuff. But often it's this very like bubble. And also I notice a difference in way he treats more important guests than him. Like when The Rock was there, when Elon Musk was there, he would be very carefully asking each question, and you can see he was holding back. And then in one of the Protect Our Parks podcasts, Shane Gillis was being Shane Gillis, was joking without any problem. He started joking on Jordan Peterson, and Elon Musk got all serious and was like, "Why are you saying that?" No, Jordan Peterson is a very legit guy. He just suffered a lot. He was being on drugs because, big pharma.
Yeah, he often cannot. It's true. Joe often, the guest throws some kind of joke on irony or some kind of side joke, and it totally flies above him. He's, I don't know if he notices, he doesn't notice, maybe he just ignores it or what. Sometimes he's not so sharp on it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's been doing it for too long. You mentioned, so your first contact or one of your first contacts to the Rogan podcast was Musk.
Yeah.
Mine was Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist.
I watch all of those. They're awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And Neil deGrasse Tyson many times have argued with Joe Rogan about some stuff.
He can be a bit annoying, Neil Tyson, because he interrupts all the time.
Yeah.
And it could get a bit too much. Like, please, come on, just give him a minute and then you can throw your thing. I know, but I don't know. But overall, I like the dude. It's like that. You think it's on the coming down? Who knows? Everything has a life cycle. Maybe it's starting to go downward. Like you said, I think there's a chance for fixing. Not fix it. There's nothing big to fix, but a couple tweaks.
To go back to the origins.
Improve some things. Yeah.
I think that the worst part of this podcast is that they start seeing what it works, Like, for example, we posted 4 episodes. I can see which episode was the most watched, and I could tell you, Luis, let's do more of this. Mm-hmm. For example, we did the podcast about the best things of America and was popular. We did the one about the cars, not so popular.
Really?
But it was super fun to do. So I think that we should stay to doing the things that are fun to do, that it's fun to sit together and talk, and maybe attract the people that gonna find it fun, instead of doing what these big guys are doing that become this character and they don't stay true to themselves. Joe Rogan is one example just because he's the biggest guy. But for example, one guy that's fucking annoying me like a lot, like impossible, Lex Fridman. Oh my fucking God.
Why do I know you? Okay. I just speak like a robot.
First of all, I read about his scientific contributions. Apparently, they're not so scientific, because I was thinking also, if you're a great scientist, you're most likely spending most of your time in a fucking laboratory. You don't have time to travel around, interview people.
I can imagine.
Why would you talk about the conflict in Israel? Who the fuck are you? I mean, I know that everybody can talk, but
he brought both sides. He brought the pro-Israel. He brought the pro-Palestine. He brought both sides.
Give me a break. This is bullshit. Like he takes this, I love the whole world, and blah, blah, blah. And we're all humans and we're all suffering and we should all love each other. Shut the fuck up. This is called toxic positivity. Wake up every fucking day at 7:30, go to a job that gives you a salary that barely you pay the bills, and then we'll talk how much you love every fucking one.
Toxic positivity is the first time I hear that one.
Yes, there are these people that tell you, "Oh, we're so blessed because we're alive. It was never better." Fuck off. No, like it's been, it's true that it's better, but we have still difficulties. The world is not pink. And he posted yesterday on Instagram this thing where he was saying people working in tech should stop following in ideologies and should start focusing on doing great work. Just do great products. And the people, myself, I wrote, well, if you say that people that work in tech shouldn't follow any ideology, tell Elon Musk because he fucking ruined Twitter. And all the people were like, well, how about the people in tech do weapons that can destroy innocent people? And of course, mentioning Gaza and stuff. And then he had to delete the post because the comments were all fuck off. Like, and
can you delete it? Newsflash, I don't have Twitter, X, or anything. So you can delete it.
Yeah, you can delete. But it was Instagram. It wasn't him. He just took a screenshot of his tweet and put it on Instagram. And people were dunking on him a lot. Yeah, so he is also one guy that when there are the big guys, he never asks any difficult question. He interviewed Elon Musk. He interviewed
Kushner, the husband of Ivanka Trump, and he had a big to do in the Trump administration, especially negotiation in the Middle East, which is going very well, I hear.
Yeah, very well.
Peaceful.
Yeah, very peaceful. And also Bezos. He interviewed Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
He was on the Joe Rogan Experience because Joe Rogan boosts these people. And now everybody is like, oh my God, Lex is so smart. Okay, Lex is so smart. He works on AI. Tell me what the fuck he did in AI. I yesterday was Googling. Tell me what the fuck is his biggest contribution. There is this guy that wrote the book... he's a sort of a philosopher. It was Anti-Fragile, Taleb. This guy is sort of a philosopher. And he was invited by Lex Fridman to do the podcast. And this guy went on Twitter and said, this is, if you like mediocrity, this is what you get. This guy Lex Fridman, he's total bullshit.
Jesus, really?
He uses MIT emails to give himself titles because apparently the MIT blah, 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 Lex Fridman, he was just a guest of the MIT. And when you're a guest of the MIT, they give you an email. So if I go to the MIT as Mr. Nobody and apply to be a guest and they give me this guesting, I get my email. I can start sending email from my MIT email and be like, oh, I'm at the MIT. But actually it's like, no, they gave me an email of the MIT. So this guy's a little bit of a scam artist.
Maybe, but also, success creates success. So the connections you create, then you choose which guests you have. He likes bringing in this guy, Michael Malice. I like him a lot. He's kind of a chaotic, anarchic guy. But he made this amazing book about North Korea, Dear Reader, I think it is. And it's fun, He's kind of a shitster, I would say. These things are kind of cool. Like he could be bringing, to be honest, Bezos. I know he's achieved a lot, but I can't be bothered. I don't care.
No, I mean, I don't care about inviting
I find Elon much more interesting. Yes.
I have nothing against talking to these people. But the thing I have a problem with is that pretending that these people, that the podcast now, talking on a podcast is the most important thing, is the freedom of, what the fuck are you talking about? If you stop doing a podcast, if Joe Rogan stops doing a podcast, yes, we're going to be sad for 2-3 days. Then we're going to listen to the next podcast because we don't give a shit. It's not like a blood testing machine, or it's not a cancer vaccine. It's not like the really hard things that the people are doing. So shut the fuck up. Like, your podcast is not the craziest thing. And also, what I think we should be aware also ourselves is not becoming too much of ourselves. Because, for example, also Michael Malice, the first time I listened to him, great guy. I'm totally against communism. I come originally from a communist country. I couldn't hate any other ideology more. But then you get only this. The first one was, the first interviews with Michael Malice were balanced, nice to listen. Also with Jordan Peterson about all this, his really scientific work. And now he's crying in every fucking video.
He does cry a lot. That's true.
Because he understood that there's this fringe people that wants to follow him. And he needs to talk about the genders, the gays. He has to create this enemy But in the same time, they say they want to hear all voices. I never saw Joe Rogan invite a gender guy to speak.
I'm trying to remember. We could be wrong here, eh? I don't know 100%. I don't remember either. But
he has had gender, like trans people on the podcast, like comedian Itzy something. I don't remember her name, but he didn't invite somebody that of these people that is popular to speak, to interview him, even if you want to debunk that person. He says I'm a Democrat, but he never invited a part of Bernie Sanders. No one else was invited on the Joe Rogan Experience. No one, like, if you see the ratio.
I'm pretty sure he could have had Trump, but has chosen not to.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that he will stay like this way. Because now a lot of other people have had Putin or...
Which is also, it might be a mistake because Trump, I'm not a fan, but, he was the president. I'm sure he has something to say. So why not having? It's because he's afraid that it's going to create a shitstorm, which it probably would. But he was the president for a few years. He might be president. We don't know. So it is worth...
it depends how you interview him. If you give him the hard questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the first interview with Elon Musk was great. The last one was shit. So it's not about who you have as a guest, is what you ask him. Mm-hmm. Also, the interview of this guy with Putin, Tucker Carlson, that was not an interview. That was bullshit.
No, Prince Olaf, and it was more Putin saying, "I'm going to talk about what I want to talk, not you." The cringiest part, the interview with Putin, I don't see it as such a bad thing, even though it was bullshit. But it's good to see the bullshit of these dictators. Let's see where they go. But later, he started doing these YouTube videos where he walks around a supermarket in Moscow or in Russia, and he's complaining like, "Oh my God, groceries here are way cheaper than in the US." It's like, yeah. Also, salaries are 1/5 probably.
Exactly.
It's like, and this, buddy. I mean, stop playing stupid.
Yeah, but the American guy that lives in Ohio, I don't know if he knows exactly how much money Russians are making. I don't know if he's questioning Tucker Carlson. Nothing against Ohio, of course. I was just to pick
something.
Pick just a random state. The one that I know. I don't know, Oregon, whatever.
What?
Oregon is a little woke, I think. Yeah, so this is the stuff I hate about the podcast. And yeah.
Okay. So, podcast. Old animals die, new animals come by.
Yeah, exactly. We're the new one. We're the new ones. Okay, guys, stick to our channel. Watch the rest of the episodes and follow us on social media. Links in the description. Bye-bye.
Comment if you think we got something wrong.
Exactly. Looking forward to hear your comments.